All right, nerds, buckle up. We are back with the news. We have quite the data dump for this week's episode. We are returning to the regular format because it's the time to return to the regular format, and we've got a whole lot, but just a real quick, intro, teaser, taster of what's to come. We have some good news for you wastelanders out there, those of you that have been enjoying life since the bombs have dropped. It looks like a certain gigantic, amazing hit show is not only getting another season, but another season. And then the rumor mill is turning ever so hard, as it always does, specifically though about a certain web slinger's next cinematic outing and some casting rumors about what might be going on, and there's just a lot of implications with this. Also, if you're a fan of like 80s action movies and just the over-the-top ridiculousness and maybe some time travel thrown in for good measure, we have an interesting sequel in the movies section that has some very strange big names attached to it they just dropped a trailer, kind of, maybe, and it's something. So we're going to talk about that. We have a whole lot more for this week's episode. Welcome back to the Week in Nerdom. I, as always, am generally nerdy. Grab your dubby, sit down, and relax because we're gonna get into the news.
Subscribe. That is all.
All right, nerds, kicking things off, we've got some music to get through. First, in the teaser intro for the section, we have a very large name in the history of music is making a very interesting return with a festival that we've got to talk about, and there's quite the lineup behind this. Also, one of the more noteworthy anniversary tours, because we have a number of those this year, but one of the more noteworthy ones is getting cut short, and so we've got to kind of parse through some of those details. And then for those of you who are really into the black metal with a theme, we have an update on a very long time in the works record from one of the biggest names in the genre, kind of the godfather of the genre in a lot of ways, dropping some information about a new album, and it is exactly what you're thinking it's going to be. We have that, and honestly, music is the biggest section this week, so we're going to spend a lot of time here. Let's go. All right, so follow-ups, corrections. In the music section, we have a new guitar player for Mastodon once again. Still haven't found a permanent replacement for Brent, but they do now have Nick Johnson playing for them. Nick Johnston, sorry, there's a T in that last name, Johnston. Nick Johnston is a Canadian guitar player, solo instrumentalist. He puts out music by himself that's more easily classifiable as easy listening than as metal. So really interesting choice here. Very intrigued to see the difference between him and the previous guy. Uncle Ben, I believe is what he calls him. Ben Eller, I think might have been his name. I'm drawing a blank. It's not in the notes because, say it with me, class, I take amazing notes. All right, so new guitar player. Again, this is not the permanent replacement. It seems like they're kind of feeling around the industry, see who maybe is an unexpected pick, but still an appropriate pick. So there's that. And then we have an update on that Weezer situation, because of course we do. So Jillian Schreiner, who, as we know, is the wife of bassist, Scott Schreiner for Weezer, she has officially entered her plea of not guilty for attempted murder and her weapons charges. There are a number of other charges here, but either way, her first day in court is a not guilty plea, and then she is set to return next week for further court dates. As things progress from this, we will be keeping tabs. Maybe not the best tabs, so if you're looking for like in detail information about this, that's not really the kind of stuff that we do here. We're more worried about the actual music they produce and less about the craziness behind the scenes, but this was just a little too crazy behind the scenes to not talk about. Either way, we'll keep tabs. just not details. Let's continue on into the new music section, shall we? New music. Once again, we have changed the structure for this section. We're not going to necessarily be talking about like reactions to new songs that have been released or anything like that. That kind of content has been moved over to the That Just Happened show, which will be happening, I promise. But there has been announcements, there's been updates and things around some new music that we are very eagerly anticipating. So we're going to talk about that. First on the list is the one that I've been teasing in the intros, and that is King freaking Diamond. We finally have an album update for King Diamond. We got our first single from the new record a couple of months ago. There is now an album title for said record. It is St. Lucifer's Hospital 1920. The new music is still actively being worked on. We will get a new single from the record before the end of the year. He was rather non-specific about when that will happen, but the actual album is on track, according to Mr. Diamond himself, is on track to be released in 2026. So we have a rough window for release. We have a rough window for the next single. We'll keep tabs. Let's move on. Next up is, oh good lord, Attack Attack. The Crabcore Kings are making a return. First new record in 13 years. It is called Attack Attack 2. They have dropped 2 singles at the same time from this new record. The first single being called Dance, the second single being called Chainless. On the Dance single, they feature the vocals of none other than Mr. Will Ramos from Lorna Shore, and that's crazy. We'll talk a little bit more in detail in the That Just Happened episode, because I did listen to this track. Never been much for Attack Attack. Tune into That Just Happened to see the actual breakdown and what the hell I think about it. But that's where we're at with that. Oh, the release date on this, sorry, is August 8th, and they'll be doing it through Oxide Records. Next up on the list for new music, we have Avatar giving us an update for their next record. Johannes has said the new record will be out this year, so we've got a rough timetable there. We also now do know that they're going to be stretching their legs of sorts. I think the exact quote from Johannes is they're trying to evolve their sound, and the last time we got vocabulary like that from them, they were talking, or they gave us the Avatar Country record, and not really their best record. It was different. It was still good. I still enjoyed it, but it's not the strongest of all their records as far as the rest of their catalog goes. So I'm a little trepidatious about this one, but he did also go on to say in the interview where he's talking about this that they're going to be still doing the heavy stuff, just evolving the heavy stuff, as it were. And that's what we got there. Next up, we have Black Braid, and this one, there's a little bit of a preface that I need to put up here. This information has been out for a little while. We should have talked about this in the second supplemental episode during the supplemental episode times, but for whatever reason, it didn't go into the notes for that. It didn't go into the notes for the third supplemental episode. It barely made it into the notes for this, and then went, oh yeah, Black Braid's releasing a new record, and also is going on tour. And then I didn't put his tour information in the touring section, so I am sorry, but Black Braid is going on tour. I'll give you the update for that one next week, I promise. But the new record obviously is called Black Braid 3, because that's the naming scheme he's decided to go with, at least for now. And it will be released August 8th. Once again, he is self-releasing it because at this point, why not? He's one of the highest selling black metal acts in the music industry right now, because he's freaking amazing. I have very high anticipation for this next record. He even got a write-up in the New York Times. Like, normies don't listen to black metal, but somehow Skagasawa got a write-up in the New York Times for his Black Braid project, and I am freaking here for it. So Black Braid 3 out August 8th. We'll definitely be following up on this one. And then our final piece of new music information actually is a good transition into tours, because it is about a tour that has kind of sort of ended. It is Botch, their final show. They recorded it, thank God, because I was unable to catch any of the Botch shows. They did come to my neck of the woods. I just couldn't afford to go to the damn show. Botch has recorded their final show. They're releasing it as a live. They're calling it a movie in the press release. It's a live performance DVD. Like, that is, like, unless there's some sort of documentary associated with it that they didn't call out specifically, like, it's a live performance, which is fine. It's totally cool. I want this. I just think the vocabulary is a little weird. They're also releasing it as a live record because, yes, please. I think, honestly, the first Botch music I ever heard was a live recording because they put out a live EP, and for the longest time that was the only Botch I knew. So this is not going to be like your traditional hardcore live record where it sounds like it was recorded with one microphone at the back of the room so you hear all the crowd over the music. Not that. This is going to be a professionally recorded situation. Here for it. I want this. The release date on this, I do not have, honestly. The title for it is going to be 061524, which I believe is the date of the final show. But yeah, I did not see a release date for this. If there is one by the time I edit this video, I'll put it on screen. So for those of you just listening, you got to go check out the video. Otherwise, I will try and follow up with this one next week. That, though, is, like I said, what we have for all of the new music. Let's talk now about tours and festivals. And we've got some interesting stuff to talk about. First, though, saying this one's not as interesting, which is fair point, is released the tour dates for the continuation of their Painful Statements tour. They're calling it Painful Statements Tour Part 2. Because it makes sense. This is the 20th anniversary of their record To the Pain. It is the 25th anniversary of their record Statement. So those two records were released 5 years apart. They're celebrating both of them, hence Painful Statements. Support on this tour is coming from Upon a Burning Body and Autumn Kings. So that's going to be a fun show. Like, Nonpoint, for as much as I am kind of bleh on them, like, they're very entertaining to watch. They put on a hell of a show. They're just not exactly my cup of tea in a few ways. So it is what it is. But Upon a Burning Body, yes, those dudes are really, really damn good and also put on a very good show. I don't know who Autumn Kings are, though, so it kind of is what it is. This leg of the tour starts August 8th in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, runs through August 30th in Hobart, Indiana. They're going all over the place, so go check out the link in the description if you want tickets. Next on tours is the Melvins. The Melvins are calling this tour Stop Your Whining Tour. They're featuring support from Red Cross. Tour starts September 9th in Flagstaff, Arizona, runs through October 21st in Tucson, Arizona. They're not staying in Arizona, though, even though it starts and ends there. They're going all over the country. There are a lot of damn dates on this tour. Link in the description if you want tickets, and you really, really should, because the Melvins, wow, brain fart. Melvins put on one of the best shows of metal adjacent music. It's not really metal. Buzz doesn't really like genres necessarily, as you would know if you listen to their music. But yeah, they're whole North American trek. It's huge. Go check it out. And then possibly the biggest announcement in this week's tours and festivals is CBGB Fest. That's right, CBGB's is rising from the grave and putting on a festival. It's in honor of the memory of CBGB's. It's not going to be where CBGB's was necessarily. It is going to be in Brooklyn, so the city where CBGB's existed. It is September 27th. It is going to feature giant names in the music industry, especially as it pertains to punk rock music. Iggy Pop, Jack White, Sex Pistols, The Damned, The Melvins, Gorilla freaking Biscuits, Crow freaking Mags. We have tons more on this list. You can follow the link in the description if you want to see the entire set, or the list of bands playing, the whole package. Early access tickets will be opening soon, but they have yet to go on sale. So if you want to register, you can also follow the link in the description to do that. Early registration is going to be apparently the only way you can get in for the pre-sale. So the final piece of touring and festival music is Austin City Limits has just announced their lineup this year as well. So those of us watching it on PBS later, now we know what to expect, right? So The Strokes, Hozier, Sabrina Carpenter, Doja Cat, bleh, Luke Combs, John Summit, and Doechi, I don't know who that is, are kind of the headliners. You have I Just Lost My Place, Cage the Elephant, Pierce the Veil, Rilo Kiley, Rainbow Kitten Surprise, I've never heard of them, but with a name like that, I'm kind of intrigued. Modest Mouse, Wet Leg, Fantagram, Bill Murray, which if you've never listened to Bill Murray, you should definitely check them out. Not spelled like the actor, it's a different spelling, check the description. And more. Also on board for this, it is going to be huge as well. It's pretty huge every year that Austin City Limits happens, but that is what it is. It is going to be October 3rd through 5th, and then October 10th through 13th. So 2 different weekends, 1 week apart. It is going to be in Zilker Park in Austin, Texas. Once again, link in the description if you want to get tickets, because you're going to be in Texas at approximately that time. I am going to be seeing Mudvayne at approximately that time, so I'm not going to be able to make it to Austin City Limits. Anyway, that is what we have for tours and festivals. Let's talk about some regular ass news here for a moment. First on the regular ass news, we have Henry Rollins. For those of you who don't know who that is, you're a little too young. But Henry Rollins, I know I said with the G, it's an in-joke. If you don't get it, it's okay. He is alternative punk rock icon. Henry Rollins he was the lead singer of Black Flag. He then started Rollins Band and then completely quit making music and has just been doing these spoken word tours forever. But all throughout that time, he has been collecting memorabilia from his friends who were in iconic punk rock bands from the 70s and 80s, all the way up through very, very recently. He's just a big music nerd. In the most antisocial way, he would rather go out and buy vinyl than go out and hang out with people. And I can't necessarily fault him for that, but he's had all of this music memorabilia just hanging out in his house or in his office, because he also runs a music publishing company and a book publishing company, which is how he publishes his books. And then he finds like obscure pressings or obscure recordings and presses them to vinyl, and that's what he puts through his music publishing company. But he's taking all of this amazing memorabilia that's just sitting in his house or in his office or places where only he goes, and is starting a museum. He is starting a music museum. He's got the initial steps going forward. According to what he said, he's not going to use those words exactly of I want to start a museum, because he's the kind of guy that I'm not going to tell you I'm doing a thing. I'm just going to show you I did the thing. So that's kind of where that's at. But yeah, Henry Rollins Music Museum. That sounds freaking awesome. We've spent a little bit too much time on this. Let's move on to our final piece of regular ass news, and that is the Trivium versus Bullet for My Valentine situation. I guess technically this could have gone in tours and festivals, but it's a little bit bigger than that. So, the TLDR of this situation is Trivium and Bullet for My Valentine have been on tour for some time. They did a European tour, I believe it was last year, together. This year they started a new tour. It's the Poisoned Ascendancy tour. It is an anniversary of their 2 records that I can't remember. Ascendancy was the Trivium record, and then I don't remember what the Bullet for My Valentine record was. But either way, they did the Poison Ascendancy tour that started as a North American tour. That North American tour is ending soon, or has just ended sometime in the last couple of days, somewhere in that neighborhood of things. And they were supposed to continue throughout the world, effectively throughout Europe again, and then through, like, I don't remember exactly the way they were going, but it was going to be a world tour, right? It was made known approximately almost a week ago, I guess, maybe a little over a week ago now, since we're late on this week's episode, but it was made known that actually Bullet for My Valentine is going to be pulling out of the situation. They're going to be no longer continuing with the tour for reasons that were not made public immediately. So that was honestly not made public at all until Paolo, the bass player from Trivium, went to the social medias of Trivium and started kind of airing the dirty laundry. Like, this is a farewell, this is the end of the tour. Not necessarily talking too much trash about the situation, but definitely not speaking well of the situation. Definitely not, like, giving people hope for the future between these 2 bands. Made it seem like there was a little bit of beef. We have since found out from Matt Hafey, who is the vocalist and lead guitar player, excuse me, for Trivium, that actually there is no beef between these bands. Trivium had started the process of the rest of the world tour under the assumption that Bullet for My Valentine would be joining them, because that was apparently in talks, but nobody ever signed paperwork exclusively saying that this was happening. So Trivium got things rolling, and then Bullet for My Valentine said, actually, no, we are going to be continuing work on a new record. So they're going into the writing process, and Trivium is going to continue touring. Now, that's not exactly a one-for-one, because it's not the tour that they were working on continuing with the Poison Descendancy tour dates. So anything that was rumored or maybe early announced as far as European tour dates or anything outside of the US is not happening. They are going to be touring the US again instead of going to Europe at this time, but Matt has said that they will be doing another world tour soon. They just don't have dates or anything like that for us. So, or any supporting acts or anything like that. They don't have any supporting acts for the new US tour that they're about to start, considering all of this stuff has fallen apart. Hafey has also said that there is no beef between the bands. They are still very much friends. He and the vocalist, guitar player from Bullet for My Valentine are still homies. They actually did some big press thing together just like yesterday as I'm recording this. Might have been 2 days ago, actually, now that I think about it. Either way, they're still homies. They're still doing the thing. So that is the situation as it were. Anyone who's telling you that there's beef between these two bands has not been fully paying attention, because we know now that that's not the case. But there we go. Which leads us into our suggestion for the week. Our suggestion this week is honestly because of the announcement of the 25th anniversary for Wisconsin Death Trip. Static X, baby, is our suggestion for the week. 25 years on, and this record is still a banger. From front to back, there are no bad tracks. There are some that stand out. I would say check out Loser, Wisconsin Death Trip, Push It. But again, basically everything from front to back on this album is a banger. You're going to get some headbangers whiplash from listening to this too much, just because it is so much damn fun. Actually, my feet are still tired from the show I went to the other day because I was jumping and not headbanging, but still, pain. So that is your suggestion this week. Go check out Static X's Wisconsin Death Trip. Stay tuned to the That Just Happened show to hear about the show that I went to. It wasn't Static X. That's coming in October. But we'll see you in the next one. Let's keep rolling, shall we? And then we jump into gaming and tech, and this one's not quite as big as music, but let's do the thing. We do have a World War II themed Marvel game is getting pushed back a little bit, so some of those World War II era superheroes are just going to spend a little bit more time in the oven, but it could be a good thing. Also, fans of our Heroes in a Half Shell, we got an announcement on a game that's technically already out, but getting some more release information and a collector's edition. And then a fresh look at a familiar face in the fighting game scene is just dropped. We're going to talk about that. Also, it's not in my notes, but we have to interject this Mortal Kombat craziness that's going on, and a little bit more in gaming, so let's go. Follow-ups and corrections, gaming and tech. Like I said, quick section. Let's do this. So follow-up is for Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra. The game that was rumored, and then we got those leaked images, and we were like, what is this? It's Cap and T'Challa, but it wasn't really T'Challa, it was T'Challa's dad, and yeah, pretty freaking awesome. And now we have to wait a little bit longer. So the game has been pushed back to 2026, according to Skydance, who is developing the game. They are using this delay to finish polish on the game, though setting it back a year sounds like a little bit more than polish. Maybe there was some elements to the narrative that they wanted to scratch out maybe and fix, I would hope. So that definitely gives us hope that it is going to be a polished game. We're not going to have to do a bunch of balance patches or bug patches or anything like that. It's just going to launch and it's going to play, though hopes for that are fairly low. But also hope that the story is going to be something that we're interested in playing and not just some narrative driving nonsense. So that's what we got there. That is our one follow-up. We do have 2 trailers to talk about. This week is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate, which is currently on the Switch, now is getting a release date for PlayStation 4 and 5, as well as Xbox One and Series consoles. So it's easy to develop when it's all super low poly sprites, right? But it is coming on May 20th for the PlayStation consoles, and then approximately a month later for the Xbox consoles on June 24th. There is also a collector's edition coming out that has a whole bunch of stuff. If you are a TMNT collector, this is going to do the thing. It's going to scratch the itch. It is in August is when it's going to be released. I don't know if there was a specific date announced or if I just didn't write it down, but if there is, I'll let you know. For those that don't know, who haven't seen anything about this, the Splintered Fate is a 3D hack and slash, so similar to the arcade stylings of Shredder's Revenge, but in a 3D setting instead of a 2D sprite setting. So yeah, pretty awesome. Finally get to play it on my Xbox because I didn't buy it for my Switch. Actually, I might actually just buy it for my Switch, not gonna lie. Anyway, continuing on. Let's move right along. Let's move over to some fighting game information. The trailer that we're talking about is Virtua Fighter. It is Wolf Hockfield trailer, so old school Virtua Fighter face is got an upgrade, and boy does it look freaking amazing, just like everything else we've seen so far for Virtua Fighter 5. Yeah, let's do this. That's all we really... Go watch the trailers, man. The links are in the description. And then we do have one piece of, I guess it's technically follow-up, but we're going to call it regular-ass news because this is fairly momentous in that it would seem that Mortal Kombat 1 is coming to an end because we now have the Mortal Kombat 1 Definitive Edition announced. Definitive Edition is going to be all of the previously separately sold DLCs packaged up together. Apparently part of this is also going to be all of the skin packs. So the UMK3 skin packs, the movie skin packs is singular, and the not like the you don't get like the evening wear skin pack. I think you still have to pay for that one separately, but there's a couple of those skin packs tied into this, as well as Chaos Reigns and the Combat Pack 1 and everything that they've officially rolled out a proper release for is going to be bundled up into this, including all of the characters and the cameo characters and so on and so forth. And something that I missed on the initial announcement for this that I honestly found through a third-party news source that I don't know how they got the information that wasn't in my email, like what the hell. But for HBO Max subscribers, yes, it is now called HBO Max again. For HBO Max subscribers, if you link your Max account to your WB account, you get four new skins, 2 for Scorpion and 2 for Sub-Zero, that are honestly really dope. I love those Scorpion skins. I love the one Sub-Zero skin, but both of those Scorpion skins are sick as hell. So yeah, link that, do the thing. But this is the end of Mortal Kombat 1 because the last 2 times they've done this, when they package everything together and give it to us as some sort of definitive edition. I think with X, it was called XL. With Mortal Kombat 11, it was Ultimate Mortal Kombat 11 was the package for it, and that was the end. There were no more balance patches, there were no more DLC, nothing like that. So this is signaling the end of support for this, which has gone on slightly longer than it did for Mortal Kombat 1, but still not what Ed Boon promised us. I'm pretty sure he said, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he said himself, we're looking at approximately 4 years of support. This is barely over 2 years of support for this, so kind of sucks. I'm kind of okay with it. They did also launch a secret balance patch last week. No, the beginning of this week, rather, because it's Friday, duh. The beginning of this week that buffed Scorpion just a wee bit. Like, I'm super happy with the change that they made to Scorpion. The big one being his Hellblades, I think is what they call it, where he spins his kunai, now hits overhead, and that's huge if you're a Scorpion player because now you have a little bit more mix-up, but it also allows your opponent to block overhead and minimize the damage they take, even the chip damage that they take from it. But still, it's pretty safe if you have the right cameo. And there were a number of other balances on there. Just, I'm a Scorpion main, so that's the only one I can think of offhand. But yeah, this is the end of Mortal Kombat 1, almost officially. I guess there is still the chance that we could get a little bit more support going forward, since we are a number of years out from whatever NetherRealm is doing next. I would venture approximately 2 years away from seeing whatever the hell they're working on, and then maybe about 3 years away from actually being able to play it. So there is a slim possibility, but hope is dying fast for that slim possibility. That, though, is the only thing we have for regular ass news. Let's talk about our suggestion for the week. The suggestion, we're going to go to the other TMNT game that I talked about just a moment ago, and that is Shredder's Revenge, because it is on all platforms, and it is dope as hell. It is so much fun. This is the game. If you played the old school arcade in the actual physical arcade when you were a kid like I did, or if you played the old school arcade on your NES like I did, or they've re-released it a number of times or tried to kind of reimagine it in a number of different iterations, this scratches that itch almost as good, if not as good, as that original arcade does, and is just so damn much fun to play. It's couch co-op, so you can't go wrong there. You don't even need an internet connection. You can just have a buddy come over or play with your significant other or whatever, or your little brother if you're down for that, and just have a blast. And you can do it a level at a time, so it's incremental. You can just play for a half an hour and burn through like 3 or 4 levels, or you can play through the entire game in approximately like 4 hours, I believe is what it takes to beat this. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it's too much fun. I can't speak highly enough about it. So that is your suggestion this week. TMNT Shredder's Revenge. Go play something fun. Now let's get into our updates from the comic rack / bookshelf, shall we? First up, we've got some Spider-Man stuff to get through, because this is an ongoing thing that they really aren't learning anything from, it would seem. Plus, we have a great piece for those fans of the OG gritty, like Killin' Fools TMNT. We've got a really awesome update for you guys. If you're a fan of the Ninja Turtles, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this one. It is a short section, so let's go. Follow-ups and corrections makes up the majority of what we're talking about this week in comic books and books, but we do have some regular ass news, so let's do it. Like I said, follow-ups and corrections. We're talking about Spider-Man. We have 2 pieces of Spider-Man news. Actually, I'm going to start with the old one first. This is one that somehow slid under the radar for a couple of weeks, just because it's comic book stuff. We know I'm not super great with like the minutia of this, but I feel like the ongoing conversation about the situation with a mainline Spider-Man and the Ultimate Spider-Man, how the dispositions of those two different characters are so opposite of what they normally are. I mean, let's give you the TLDR. Normally, mainline comics do much better than Elseworlds comics. Since the Ultimate line is technically an Elseworlds, it's a different universe, traditionally it does less in sales for any one of its characters, just because you have to really be into Marvel characters to begin with to then also want to read the alternate version of said character, right? So, for the last, I think we're going on 4 months now. This month will be 4 months. I haven't seen the numbers for this month, but I'm assuming they're continuing the trend. The Ultimate version of Spider-Man is out, at least selling as much, if not outselling, the mainline Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man books. Because what they're doing in Amazing Spider-Man, mainline, is garbage. And Tom Brevoort, the head guy at Marvel Comics, is refusing to look at the evidence as to why they're not selling as many Spider-Man books as they should be. If Ultimate Spider-Man is doing the thing and doing it well, what the hell is the difference? Ultimate Spider-Man, Spider-Man and Mary Jane are married. In mainline Spider-Man, Spider-Man and Mary Jane's marriage got dissolved. Didn't even happen technically in canon right now. So that pissed a lot of fans off. The writing has been mediocre at best, from what I understand. I'm not a big Spider-Man reader, so I don't know that firsthand, but just haven't been a lot of happy fans with this. A lot of like mildly pleased fans, sure, but not happy necessarily. And now they're just adding insult to injury. So again, let's start with the older version, the older piece that is adding to this first, and that is Joe Kelly, who's about to take over, who just took over the mainline universe, is retconning Spider-Man's childhood, which I like Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly has the best Deadpool run of any, even including Life. I don't know, Liefeld has some really good stuff too, but I very much prefer Joe Kelly's runs. Joe Kelly is retconning Peter's childhood. Now, instead of Peter being just some boring, nerdy kid who got picked on by bullies and kind of kept to himself because he didn't really have a whole lot of friends, they're adding a new character in Brian Nehrod, I think is how that is pronounced. And Brian apparently got into all kinds of hijinks with young Peter Parker, and they stole beer, they looked at porn, they got into all this trouble together, and none of this was ever spoken of before now. So it seems like they're trying to change inherently the character of Peter Parker, which, again, I love Joe Kelly. I don't know why he's doing this. This is bad. Like, there is a very slim window for them to pull off like an explanation for this, like, because in the depictions of these memories, he is fairly young. So maybe they could excuse this away. They've already tried to, the shill types are already trying to excuse this in one way. We're going to talk about that in a moment, but maybe they can say after Brian left Peter's life, that's when Peter kind of came into himself and shut down and became that nerdy kid that we know. And that, you know, that would almost make sense, right? Like, he had this friend he did all these crazy things with, they got into trouble, they got arrested according to this run, and he kind of, the pendulum swung back the opposite direction. And so instead of being this crazy troublemaker kid, then he became this inverted, you know, kind of keep into himself kind of kid. That could almost work. What the excusers are saying is the case is that in the point in the run, I guess this was a couple weeks ago, so Joe Kelly is actively writing. Anyway, the point of the run is that Spider-Man is hallucinating, so they're trying to say that these memories are quote-unquote memories, and that he's hallucinating things that didn't actually happen. However, there are indications from the rest of the book, the rest of the run, that suggest this is not really the case. Aunt May, when she sees Brian has come back into town, she treats him poorly. She recoils at the mention of his name, which would indicate that yes, there was some sort of negative connotation there. There's also one of the memories starts apparently before Peter was poisoned with the toxin that's making him hallucinate, so that also kind of doesn't go along with that narrative. So it seems like this is a legitimate, like, retcon of Peter's childhood. So do they run with this retcon? Do they try and say this was a very short period in his childhood, and once Brian left, Peter became an introvert? Like, is that the way they're going? Or are they just straight up changing the basic elements of who we know Peter Parker to be? I don't know. I'm going to pass this one off to you. If you're reading the book, please chime in the comment section, because I'm very, very interested in this. And then the other thing, back to the love life of Peter Parker, the other thing that we're talking about this week is Itsy Bitsy, who is the one who is supposed to have poisoned Peter for the whole Brian thing. But Itsy Bitsy, let's talk, I guess let's go this route. Itsy Bitsy is a new villain in the Spider-Verse. Itsy Bitsy is the identity of this character, this villain, has yet to be made known. Though somehow we know that they are, because we don't even know like if it's a male or female, that this villain is the amalgamation of DNA from Peter Parker and Wade Wilson. So Deadpool and Spider-Man DNA created Itsy Bitsy. And now they're creating this weird love interest, because the way it was put in a couple of the sources that I sourced for this story, they're trying to say that it is a potential love interest for Peter, and that's not the way that I read this. That's not the way, because I read a few of the key pages that are kind of setting this up. It's more of a situation, more of a stalker situation even, because they're trying to set up Itsy Bitsy as having an interest in Peter, having a romantic interest in Peter. Just because from some of the dialogue, it seems to be kind of alluding to these things, which is weird considering the genetic origin of Itsy Bitsy, but also could be read as Itsy Bitsy really just trying to mess with Peter's head. So making these comments is really just Itsy Bitsy, like just trying to throw him off his game. It does not seem that Peter is reciprocating any of the potential interest. It that's just not the way this really reads if you're being honest about what you're reading on the page. So still though, the slim possibility that is the direction they go is highly insulting. Also, the fact that this itsy bitsy character, considering the Mary Jane situation in the mainline universe, is what it is, like, that is also highly insulting to the longtime readers, because Peter's supposed to be with Mary Jane. They were married. That then just all of the sudden is no longer canon for reasons that if you're reading, you already know. But I don't know, it just seems like salt in the wound at this point. And that's honestly what we have for follow-ups for Spider-Man. That's for follow-ups for this whole section. But I want you to chime in. Are you reading this book right now? Where do you land on these situations that are going on with Peter and Spider-Man? And then we have a piece for regular ass news for comic books, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Journeys. Let me say that so that it doesn't sound like I have a bunch of gobbledygook in my mouth. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Journeys is the name of a new book coming from, what is it? Not Mirage. Who's putting this out? IDW. Good Lord. Took me a second, but I got there. So this quote unquote new book from IDW is a collection of a long lost run from Peter Laird. So the long lost run is written by Laird and is art from Jim Lawson, who took over once Laird and Eastman left initially back in the 80s. I'm sorry, back in the late 90s. And then in the 2000s is when Laird came back to Mirage Comics, and he and Lawson wrote this run. And it was originally called Volume 4, and it completely ignored anything that came out on the Image side of things, because Image purchased rights to produce stories in the TMNT universe. So it ignored all of the Image stuff and just continued the original Laird Eastman stuff. So these comics have been very hard to come by, and now IDW has the rights to republish them, and so they're doing that, and they're calling it Journeys. As of August 20th, it will be on sale. The pre-orders start now and run through July 14th, so if you want this, you're gonna probably have to pre-order it, or you're just gonna find it as from some seller who got a copy and selling it for much, much more than you can get it yourself. So super awesome if you're into old school Turtles, because because that's some of the best stuff, man. And this is some of the most iconic Turtles art too, especially early days Turtles art, because when it was Eastman and Laird, like, it was a little, they were trying to find the look, and Eastman's style is less well known than I think Lawson's style. So really interesting to see just from an anthropological point of view, but also if you're a Turtles fan, you kind of have to have this. So yeah, once again, it will be on sale August 20th, though pre-orders end on July 14th. And if you find one on the shelf, consider yourself lucky if you didn't pre-order it. That's what we got for regular ass news. Let's talk about our suggestion for the week. Going with an oldie but a goodie, and that is Chuck Palahniuk's Fight Club. The novelization before the movie happened is the one of the very, very few examples of the novel and the movie being equal but different, because both are fantastic. I think the novel, though, kind of sets up so much stuff that doesn't have the same payoff in the movie as it does in the novel, like exactly how Tyler and Jack meet, or I guess Joe is how you refer to him when you're talking about the book, and just kind of the unhinged elements of Tyler are so much more elevated in the book. It's just a different story because of those things. Broad strokes are still the same. If you've seen the movie but never read the book, you'll recognize a lot of the stuff that goes on in here, but it's just crazier in the novel than it is in the movie. So yeah, this is, I have only ever reread, I guess, a handful of books more than once. I've reread a number of things, but at least just the once, so 2 full readings. Fight Club and Neuromancer, the only 2 books I read once a year with regularity because they are amazing. Fight Club is your suggestion this week. Chuck Palahniuk, it's a shorty because he's a minimalist, and you will thank me in the morning. So go check out Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. It's a classic book, but it is one of the best. All right, nerds, real quick, let's take a break. Let's talk energy, and not just any energy, Dubby Energy, channel partner, and it's my go-to for any time I don't want to get that sketchy sugar crash. So here's the deal. They have spent a lot of time fine-tuning their formula, packing it full of vitamins and nootropics and things that are meant to help with cognitive performance. And the star player in all of that is a thing they like to call the neurofactor. And neurofactor is a patented cocktail of ingredients, specifically using the caffeine derived from coffee cherries, and is clinically proven to help improve brain performance. I swear this stuff helps you stay laser focused, whether you're gaming or creating or grinding away on a project or just at the daily grind at your day job. Another thing that really sets W apart is the other ingredients. Besides just the neurofactor, you have the sugar-free, 0 calories, no maltodextrin, and no artificial colors. All of that with 0 jitters and no crash, just smooth energy. And then just the icing on the cake is that Dubby is affordable as well. One 8-ounce serving, assuming you're using the promo code Generally Nerdy when you check out at dubby.gg, one 8-ounce serving is gonna cost you right about $1.20, which means a full 16-ounce serving, which most of you are probably going to mix together, which is easily mixed in their shaker bottles, which are also available at dubby.gg. A 16-ounce portion is going to cost you right about $2.40. Now compare that to $4 from the other guys, and you see that you're saving money on top of helping with your focus and your brain function. If you want to give it a try, just use the promo code Generally Nerdy at checkout. You can follow the link down in the description. We are back down to 10%. All through September we were getting 20%, but now that it is October, we're down to 10% off, which is still, you're still doing $1.20 per serving. So 10% off at checkout if you use code Generally Nerdy at dubby.gg. All of that being said, let's get back to the show, shall we? And now we're into TV streaming news. First on the teaser list, we have a very wonderful update for you Wasteland Wanderers. You've got to know what we're talking about at this point. And then we have a certain detective, purple detective, you might say, is kind of finding her way back into some Marvel action in the live action side of things. That might have been vague enough. And everyone's favorite vampire hunter has a significant update for a Lega sequel series that we've been keeping tabs on. We've got that a little bit more. We've got some TV streaming to talk about. Let's roll. Follow-ups and corrections for the TV streaming section is going to be the bulk of the TV streaming section. We've got a lot of follow-ups here. So let's get going on. The first one is Suits LA, the spin-off series from the original Suits, which you can go watch on Netflix. I think both of them are on Netflix right now, but Suits, the sequel series, Suits LA, is no longer happening. Canceled after, I believe it was one season. One season! Which sucks because I haven't watched LA yet because I'm still working my way through the original series, but the original series is pretty damn good, so it's interesting that the second one didn't make it. But that is what we have for that follow-up, though. Our next follow-up has to do with the Fallout series on Prime. Well before we get Season 2, we now have official word that Season 3 just got greenlit, so let's go! That's all we got. Next up on Daredevil Born Again, Season 2 is now confirmed to have Kristen Ritter returning as Jessica Jones. So yeah, once again, real quick, because it's just follow-ups. Let's continue on. Speaking of HBO Max, I think we were just talking about Netflix. So let's move over to HBO. HBO Max is rebranding back to HBO Max. It is no longer just Max, because that doesn't really roll off the tongue quite as well as HBO Max. I don't know exactly why, because technically we're going back to the longer version, but I think it's because literally everyone just continued to call it HBO Max anyway. So they're like, screw it, let's just get back into where we were because that's what they're calling us anyway. Let's embrace it at this point. Next, the sequel series to The Office. We got a little bit of update here, mostly just a rough release window and also where it is going to be released. It is not getting a broadcast television release like was originally suspected. It is going direct to Peacock. It will start September. Don't have an exact day, but probably the first week in September. They just have to pick a day of the week, it would seem. Also, we now know exactly how this ties in. This has been, I think, known for a minute, but we haven't talked about it on the channel directly. So just real quick TLDR, the documentary people who were quote unquote making the documentary that was The Office. So like the reason why you got the cinema verite rather style cameras and why you got those interview segments where they're talking to the camera to interviewers is because there was a fictional documentary being made about those people in that office. Well, those documentarians in this made up world are now doing another documentary about a different office. This time though is going to be a newspaper and not a paper factory, paper sales office. There we go. It is going to be about journalists working for a newspaper, and it's called The Paper. Once again, September, exclusively on Peacock. We now know that to be fact. And then the biggest follow-up for this episode, probably the biggest follow-up we're going to get for a number of weeks on TV streaming, has to do with Buffy, the Legasequel series. That is going to feature Sarah Michelle Gellar and probably have something to honor the memory of Michelle Trachtenberg, because rest in peace, that was super sad. We now know who the new Slayer is taking place for Buffy. Don't know exactly how they're going to work this into the plot. Maybe, I can't think of the other Slayer's name. I can't even think of the actress's name right now, but maybe she's passed. Or she passed a while ago and it's gone to a number of different Slayers, and because the new girl is pretty young. Her name is Ryan Kira Armstrong. You will recognize her if you watched The Skeleton Crew over on Disney+. She was in that Star Wars show, and that's what we got for now, but that's fairly big because that shows that they are moving forward full steam ahead at this point. So pretty freaking cool. Let's talk about some trailers this week in TV streaming. We got Peacemaker Season 2 finally has released, the trailer anyway. We got some Guy Gardner action, and good lord, it feels like James Gunn really is getting the character of Gardner right. James Gunn and Nathan Fillion together, right? It's a joint effort on this one. But I'm here for that. A lot of like little Easter eggy things in this trailer. Go watch it. You'll see what I'm talking about. You'll also see that it is continuing the dick and fart joke style humor, and I'm kind of here for it. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and I think that it's James Gunn showing us that he's not taking things super seriously, but he is still honoring source material. So I can get on board with that. Foundation is our next one. Season 3 dropped a trailer. July 11th is when this one's going to be on Apple TV. Plus, are we going to be getting the Mule finally? Please, please. It seems they might be alluding to such things, but not outright saying it. So let's hope we get some Mule action in Season 3. And then we got the trailer for Ironheart. I didn't even write down the release date for this because who cares at this point? Watching this trailer, it looks interesting if it's not taking over a Marvel property. It is taking the place of Iron Man, obviously. If it was not tied into Marvel, if this was just a thing that they were making for kids, I would be totally on board with this, but this feels really off and weird, and I just, I can see why fans have not taken a liking to it. That is what we have for trailers. Let's talk about our one piece of regular-ass news. We got a new announcement. They're trying once again to reboot The American Gladiators. This, I believe, is the second time in the last decade or so that this has happened. This time, though, it is Amazon Prime who has the rights for it. It is going to be hosted by Mike The Miz. I'm not going to be able to say his last name. Mizanian. You know him as The Miz on WWE. He was also on Road Rules back in the day on MTV. And yeah, he's a character. Kind of an appropriate person to host such a thing. Also, I think with the limited but still success of the Mr. Beast, the game show, those are the words I was looking for, I think that is what they're hoping to kind of capitalize on, is the little bit of momentum that they created from Beast games. Like, they're going to continue to push things in that same vein, and I think American Gladiators does it. If you remember, the last time they tried to reboot it, I'm pretty sure it was still on broadcast television, and they had Muhammad Ali's daughter hosting it, and that only went one season. I'm pretty sure. But so not necessarily high hopes, but a little bit of intrigue associated here. That's all we got for that. Let's round out this section with our suggestion for the week. Suggestion this week is maybe one that you might not be expecting. It's over on Max, HBO Max. See, I don't know, they're interchangeable, but it is called The Pit. This is a procedural, not really a procedural. This is a doctor show. A procedural doctor show would be something more along the lines of Grey's Anatomy or ER back in the day. This is not that. This is much better written. This is a very different take on a doctor show. This is 10 times better acted. I think Noah Wyle is on fire for this. Like, no joke. This dude, like, is freaking amazing in this show. It is very intense. It is on Amazon Prime organically, which means you get to see all of the blood, guts, and gore. Also, very strong language. So if you're watching this with the family and you're not okay with that for the younger kids, be aware. But super well written. A lot of this medical jargon that they're using is very, very accurate. Living in a house with a medical professional, I get to hear anytime we watch doctor shows or hospital shows about how horribly they're doing basically everything on screen. This time she's not really complaining about it. She's just drawn into the action of the show and she's here for it. And I think that says a lot. So yeah, super excited about finishing the series. I'm about halfway through the season. The other unique thing about this is each episode is not a new day in the lives of these doctors. Each episode is a new hour in the same day. 12 episodes means a 12-hour shift for these poor doctors. It's intense. That's what I'm gonna say with that. Definitely watch it. It's really, really good watch. That is your suggestion for the week. And then we have dispatches from the land of cinema that we really, really have to get into this trailer about everyone's favorite Kryptonian, because I've got some thoughts. I think people are reading a little bit too far into certain things. We'll talk about that. And then we have a sequel that you probably haven't seen the original for, because it's a short that I'm pretty sure only got released on YouTube, but now has some crazy big names attached to the sequel to the there's a lot to unpack here. We're going to get into that. And because apparently most of our news this week is trailers, we're also teasing a very special certain person with no name. Well, he has a name, but really he's nobody. That might be too much. Either way, we're talking about some trailers. So let's go. There's a little bit of movie news in here, but mostly trailers. So let's do the thing. No follow-ups or corrections here in movies this week. We do, though, have some trailers to talk about, and the first one isn't really a trailer. It's a sizzle reel is how they have it billed. Originally, it leaked onto Twix, if you will. Originally it leaked there, and then people picked it up and put it up on YouTube. And so if you follow the link in the description, it'll take you to one of the YouTube links. It's for a movie called Kung Fury 2 specifically. If you don't know what the original Kung Fury is, let me give you the TLDR real quick. The original Kung Fury was a Kickstarter, a short film that was just a crazy homage to the bizarre movie making of the 80s. Where is the director guy? Director David Sandberg is also the star, and it is just over the top. He's a cop who is also a kung fu master and a rock star all at the same time. And he lives in a world where there's anthropomorphic dinosaurs, and so that's kind of the setup for the first movie. And then you take those elements and put them together, and then you add on top of that Michael Fassbender as, I believe, the villain, as well as Arnold Schwarzenegger as the President of the United States. And just the absurdity kicks up to it goes well beyond 11, and we're up to 12 territory here. This looks bonkers. There is a whole lot of reasons why, because the movie is filmed. The movie exists. It is a whole thing that is done, edited, and sitting on a shelf somewhere. They finished filming this, and they finished producing this rather, in 2019. Then there was issues with the money backers, and then there's been a lawsuit, and then COVID, and all of these things have just made a perfect storm of garbage for director David Sandberg and the production staff that have been in charge of making this movie happen ever since it was finished in 2019. That this leak seems to be something that they're hoping will go the same way that the original Deadpool leak goes, in that once people see this little bit of, because it's like 10 minutes worth of sizzle reel, once you see this and you go, oh my god, this is something I need in my life, that'll create enough buzz, and then the backers who own the rights to it, who aren't letting them release it for whatever reasons, will say, all right, maybe we will make our money back, and blah 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 blah, and things and stuff, and then we get this thing in our hands and we can watch the whole damn movie. So go watch the trailer, try and find the post on Twix. I can't remember exactly where that is, though it shouldn't be too hard to find. Just search Kung Fury 2, because this is bonkers. Also has something to do with China, and now there's other things involved with China. So yeah, it's a mess, and hopefully it gets worked out one day so we can see this whole film. Anyway, continuing on, let's talk about that Superman trailer. Wow. Okay, so I didn't have the same issues with the first trailer that the rest of the world did. The second trailer, where they took out the blood, that was a little weird, but like the stoicism of the first trailer, I felt like was a little appropriate. Also, it was pretty short, so you can't really glean a whole lot of stuff about these characters in that first trailer, just because it was like just over a minute long. This new trailer that we got, the movie launches on July 11th, just so you know, so we're getting very close. But this new trailer that we got, I think that they're moving in the right direction. I think we're going to get some stoicism out of this Superman. I think we're also going to get a sense of humor out of this Superman, which is in line with what I read in the comic books. He's kind of more stoic and intelligent than he is funny and kind of freewheeling, but either way, those are two elements of his character. So like, if James Gunn can get the proportions of those two elements right, I think we have a pretty good Superman on our hands. The issues that I have with this trailer, well, one, people thinking that the guy, the black noir looking dude with the U on his chest is Ultraman. Oh, no, that's not Ultraman. I don't even know 100% that, I don't think that's a U on his chest. I think that might serve some sort of actual function, and maybe he's some sort of different robot. Maybe Lex Luthor has him powered with kryptonite, and that's how he's doing these things to Superman. I mean, that would be an element of Ultraman, sure, because he is powered by kryptonite instead of stopped by kryptonite, but I think that will be the only parallel you can draw between the actual Ultraman character and whatever that thing is. So I think there is a very specific reason to why it is shrouded, as you don't see an actual face for the man in black, the black noir looking dude, because I think at some point there's going to be horrendous things done to him, and if it's a masked humanoid thing, like if they sell it like it's a robot of some sort, then they can do really, really bad things, and the censors will still allow it with a PG-13 rating. So I think that is why we have the mystery there, because if you see his face, it humanizes him, and then it becomes much more violent in the eyes of the censors, and so it bumps it up to an R. So I think that is why he looks like Black Noir. So that's one issue, but that's more of an issue with the people interpreting the trailer. The big issue I have with this one is Lex. Again, this is just a trailer, so there is definitely room that I am interpreting this incorrectly, but the little bit that we get of Lex in this trailer seems to show Lex as much more mustache-twirling supervillain than Lex is in modern comics, or has been for some freaking time at this point. The beauty of the villainy of Lex Luthor is that his view on Superman is Earth should not need an alien to protect it. Earth should be able to protect itself from these invading forces, from these outside forces. So Lex wants to protect Earth, albeit in a twisted version of what he thinks is fair and just, but still in a fair and just way, by its own means, not with the help of an alien intruder as he sees it. So that creates the dichotomy of they kind of have the same end goal. It's just Lex sees Superman as getting in the way or as a potential threat, which is not entirely off base, considering, red kryptonite is a thing. And anyway, so we don't get that kind of nuance, at least in this trailer, with the character of Lex. This Lex just looks like Superman's a bad guy and I'm gonna be a bigger bad guy to get rid of him. Like it seems super, super basic as far as the motivations for Lex go. We only get seconds of stuff from this. So again, I reserve the right to be wrong. But that's kind of what I'm seeing with this so far. So go watch the trailer. Let me know what you think. Do you see the same thing I'm seeing? I actually kind of dig the design for these villains too. Like, I think reading the comics and then seeing these villains come to life on screen, I think James Gunn's interpretation is far better than we could have gotten with literally anyone else. So yeah, I'm still here for all of the design and stuff. I just think that hopefully they get the tone of Lex better. Also, I think there's been an interpretation of I think this element of the trailer is fantastic, but there's been some weird interpretations of the interview between Lois and Superman, Clark as Superman, if you will, that people are still, you can't read too much into context here, because it's only a just over 2-minute trailer now, so we've got an extra minute, sure. But like the interview goes, so all right, let's kind of distill this down a little bit. I do kind of understand the argument of this is the kind of personal politics, social politics that we go to the movies to get away from. Like, I can understand the argument of I don't want to see cancel culture in my movies. Okay, that makes sense. But being as this is the current state of things, and art is a reflection of the times, like, it still makes sense. It still stands to reason that they would be putting this in here. This doesn't feel out of place. Just because it's not as escapist as you want it to be, doesn't mean that it's not accurate to the way the character would interact in these situations. So, and also the exasperation on Superman's face, like Lois is grilling him, which I think is really freaking cool that they took that element of it. But Lois is grilling him, so like frustration is going to happen. So people taking issue with the fact that he like puffs up his cheeks and sighs and does all these things, like, that's not my Superman. No, that is. He gets frustrated from time to time. I think more often than not he gets frustrated with Bruce, but that's a whole different thing. We're not going to see Bruce for some time, I think. But I still think this is well within the boundaries of the Superman we get in the the good version of Superman that we get in the comics anyway. So anyway, we've spent too much time on this. Let's move along. Our other trailer this week has to do with Nobody 2. We got a full proper trailer, not just a teaser. Now, this movie comes out August 15th. This feels like National Lampoon's Secret Service Vacation. Like, this looks like it is going to be, I mean, it has a lot to do with the fact they're playing Holiday Road over the trailer, because obviously that's a song that you associate with National Lampoon's vacation movies. But like, it's Bill Odenkirk, and we already know that there's going to be an element of comedy involved if he's there. We also know what we're getting because we saw the first movie. It just feels like they're ramping it up in all the right ways. It's not retelling the same movie, it feels like. It's continuing the story from the last movie. And that's at least how the trailer feels. And hopefully they don't give us all of the good action in the trailer. I'm hoping that once the movie releases, there's going to be a lot more action here. But as it stands right now, that's what we got. So let's continue on. Let's move into now some regular ass news. These are honestly just two new announcements for movies. First up is one that kind of surprises me has taken this long to be announced, or to be a thing anyway, and that's Cocomelon, the biggest children's animated IP in the world right now, is getting a proper theatrically released movie. It's coming from Moonbug Entertainment, who does the show. And again, feels like this should have happened 5-10 years ago, because CoComelons was, I feel like, even bigger about 5 years ago. So it would have made sense to do it then. But yeah, I think they're still going to make a boatload of cash on this. And then we have another announcement for a Miles and Juliet movie. It is a biopic about Miles Davis and Juliet Greco's romance. The synopsis reads, it follows 22-year-old Miles Davis on a transformative trip to Paris in 1949, where he falls into passionate romance with Juliet Greco, French singer, actress, and left bank icon. What begins as an intimate affair blossoms into a profound connection between two young artists just before they become cultural legends. I'm freaking here for it. I love Miles Davis. I don't honestly know a lot about his personal life, so I'm very interested to kind of dig into the history of this before I go see the movie, just so I can compare the artistic license versus what actually happened. But yeah, it's going to be great. Which then leads us to our movie suggestion for the week. Suggestion this week is one you might not be expecting again, and that is Thunderbolts. Out in theaters still. It's not going to be coming to streaming for at least another month and a half to 2 months, I would venture, maybe even longer. And I'm not trolling. This is a legit suggestion. This movie is a hell of a lot of fun. And at this point, you can go catch it at the discount theater, because I'm sure it's going to be, you can catch it on discount days. I believe AMC said they're going to start doing like half price on Wednesdays in order to get people to come out to the theaters. So you can get a cheap showing for this, so you're not spending a whole bunch of money, but still see it on a giant screen and still have the, 15 speakers surround and whatever. And yeah, this is definitely an experience worth having in the actual theaters rather. You can watch my review of it and see, like, there are definitely issues with it, but this is one of the better Marvel movies we've gotten in some time. I would venture the entire, what are we in now, phase 5? The entirety of the current phase, this is probably the best one there. Definitely not the best Marvel movie we've ever had, but shows promising signs of change for the future. So that is your suggestion this week. Go check out Thunderbolts while it's still in theaters.
Maybe. It's classified.
And then grab your salt shakers, kick on those speculation engines, because it's the rumor mill. We have James Gunn weighing in on a pretty major rumor that we kind of talked about during the supplemental episodes. We're going to get into details here. There's stuff to unpack. And then we have some casting rumors for your friendly neighborhood superhero that have some pretty big implications if they're for real. And then we have a gaming rumor around a specific game that is known for its automotive acquisitions, if you will. If you're a fan of such things, there's some good and some bad, but it's mostly bad, but there's still some good, and we're going to talk about all of that and a whole lot more. Rumor mill is our second biggest section for the week, so let's roll. All right, let's get that refutation out of the way. Confirmations, refutations. Our refutation this week is Matt Reeves. The whole Batman 2 situation, Matt Reeves' name was taken off of some announcement as director. He's still the writer, but he's not directing, was the rumor. And James Gunn has come out and said, you guys are crazy. I believe CosmicBook.News found an older post from the same article that started all of this hubbub, or the same outlet rather, that started all of this hubbub, that had a typo in it back when it was originally published about 2 years ago. It was this same issue. They only had him down as writer, not as director. And so when they published again with that, people just picked it up and ran with it, because controversy is gonna get me clicks, baby. And it would seem that that is not the case. James Gunn has squashed this. Matt Reeves is still directing and writing the sequel to The Batman with Robert Pattinson, assuming it ever comes out. I think current estimates put it next year, and some people are saying that the delay is putting it back into 2027, but it is still in the works, and so that's where we're at. We don't have any new sources for old rumors. We've just got some new rumors. So let's talk about those new rumors, shall we? First up, we have 2 new rumors that are kind of related, but still 2 new rumors for Spider-Man 4. So we got the news that Liza Colon Zayas, I think that's how you say her name. She's in The Bear. She plays Rita, I think is her character's name in The Bear. I can't remember right now, and I feel like an asshole. Anyway, she's in The Bear. She has been cast in Spider-Man 4, but we don't know for what reason. So the rumor has it that she is going to be playing Miles Morales' mother. So that will be our kind of sneaky backdoor into introducing Miles Morales. Though we're not going to actually introduce Miles Morales in Spider-Man 4, according to the rumor. We're just going to start laying the foundation for such things. So, and then that tied together, we're going to talk about both rumors. Tied together, we have Sadie Sink. New rumor around here is that she is going to be May Parker, not Aunt May, but the alternate universe version of Peter and MJ's daughter, who becomes May Parker. Her superhero name is, I didn't write it down. Is it Spider Girl? Is that what she? Anyway, she has spider powers. I can't remember her superhero name. But that'd be cool. I just think that is a lot for normies to unpack. Liza Colon Zayas, I think that there's a strong possibility for that. I think it'll mostly be an Easter egg though, just because Sony has, I think, exclusive rights right now to Miles Morales Spider-Man. The only thing they share is Peter Parker Spider-Man. So I think her being Miles' mom will be the Easter egg. I don't know how she's gonna factor into the story, but I mean, who knows? So we're gonna put that one at like 70%, and then we're gonna put the Sadie Sink thing at honestly like 40%, just because that is way too much stuff to have to explain in, presumably, we're gonna say about 2.5 hours for Spider-Man 4, because it is coming when it's coming in the timeline, but I don't think they're gonna take those steps. I think they're gonna keep her character as simple as possible. So continuing on, still staying with Marvel, we now have an X-Men rumor that Neve Campbell is set to play Polaris. The rumor goes on to say that it could be one of two ways, potentially both, in that she's going to be playing a version of Polaris for Doomsday that comes from the Fox Marvel Universe, being as Magneto is so old. Neve's age will not be a factor because she's in her 50s at this point. So, but also like Sir Ian McKellen is in his 80s, so it would make sense. Like the timeline adds up. But also the rumor goes on to say she very possibly is also going to be voicing Polaris for season 2 of X-Men 97, replacing the original voice actor. So this, I don't know if we should treat this as two separate. I think these both could be happening. The Doomsday inclusion is a Easter egg, and then her moving forward as the voice for the character in the animation series kind of lines up. Like, I think there's a decent reason to go for both of them. We're gonna put it about 65. It's a fairly decent source, but this again feels like a little bit of a lot to be thrown. Though Doomsday is going to be a lot to begin with, so maybe we should go higher. But we're going to say 65% for that one. Next up is Clayface. We have more issues with the Matt Reeves universe. Apparently now it's not Matt Reeves, but that we talked about that previously. The new one is that Mike Flanagan, the script that he wrote for the Clayface movie, which kind of got Clayface greenlit to begin with from James Gunn, is now completely getting rewritten. The new writer on this project is supposedly Hossein Amini, who also wrote the movie Drive. This one is in the trades at this point, so there's very little reason to not think that this is happening. So we're going to say 85% likely. As we've said previously, if something makes it to the trades as a rumor, it's all but being announced at that point, because they wouldn't run on something if there was enough room to speculate that it won't happen. So yeah, very, very likely for that one. Continuing on, we're staying with Marvel. Sergeant Rock, the Colin Farrell movie that was supposedly going to be happening, has now reportedly been indefinitely shelved. Rumor says the higher-ups over at DC have lost their faith in the director, and this is so silly, because I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this was rumor based, this currently is a rumor based on another rumor that this was even going to be a thing. So there's no way for us to verify one way or the other because we would have to be able to verify that this was actually in the works. So we're going to say 50% likely that Sergeant Rock is now not happening because we can't say that it was going to happen initially. So yeah, 50% for Sergeant Rock. Continuing, let's move over to gaming. We're going to revisit gaming at the end of this, but right now we're talking about Max Payne. We now hear rumblings that there is going to be a new direct port of the OG game for the Switch that will also have a free upgrade or whatever they're calling them for the Switch 2. Video game rumors very rarely are off the mark too far. This one we're going to put at about 85% as well. We haven't heard, like, this is not something that they would keep under wraps, so maybe they just haven't officially made the announcement yet, but like there's no... Of course they're going to do something like this. They're trying to capitalize as much as possible on this IP. And so with them doing this isn't going to be an upgraded version. It's going to be just a direct one-for-one port. So yeah, there's no reason to think they won't do that. And let's go back over to Marvel. Let's talk about Jeremy Renner and Hawkeye. We alluded to this in one of the supplemental shows in that Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye is not getting a second season, but it's because Jeremy Renner turned down the offer to do a second season because they lowballed him. And the rumor is the reason they lowballed him is because they didn't want to do it anyway because they need him on screen. Like, this is because of the number of people talking about this, because of the quality of people talking about this, we're gonna say about 90% on this one, just because at this point it's kind of the worst kept secret, one of the worst kept secrets in the Marvel universe, right? All right, let's switch over back to gaming for a couple of rumors. First up is the Xbox Showcase. Rumor mill is all abuzz with ZeniMax, the studio behind Arcane, is filing new patents for games, which implies that maybe we're going to be seeing these games, either ports or new iterations, for Dishonored, Wolfenstein, Deathloop, and Quake in the current generation. This one, again, gaming rumors, very rarely wrong. This one is, you can verify that they filed for this. There is the possibility that they're just re-upping their patents, because you have to do that every so often. But the timing is interesting because it is just before the Xbox Showcase. So maybe there's an announcement coming our direction. We don't know. So again, 90% likely for that one. Our next gaming rumor is the one that I think is going to hurt a lot of people's feelings, but also still be kind of positive, and that is GTA 4. Rumors about GTA 6 being delayed are now fueling new rumors that GTA 4 is getting a port and as a means to tide us over until GTA 6 is released. This also goes on to say, this leaker also goes on to say that Max Payne 3 is also going to be getting a port, or getting an updated version, much like this GTA 4. Again, gaming rumors rarely off the mark. I think this one, it's rumor based on rumor, but I still feel like this one's pretty, because we haven't confirmed that GTA 6 has been pushed back. We just got that big trailer, and like, it's the biggest thing since sliced bread on YouTube, so why wouldn't they be trying to fast track this as much as possible in order to meet the deadline that they're kind of working towards this whole time? But if they are going to push it back, this is the way to ease the pain, right? So I'm going to say about 70% likely for GTA 4 to be covering the gap of GTA 6. Next is, now we're back over to Marvel. We have a new rumor for a Marvel movie of Annihilators. There is supposedly a new movie in the works. Since Nova has been canceled, Nova is part of the Annihilators team. The rumor is that they're going to incorporate Nova into that movie, have another team movie, a little bit more of a spectacle than a solo Nova movie would have been, and have that be the thing. With the new direction that, again, it's kind of rumored to be going, but we know pretty well that that is the way it's going. I'm putting this one at 40%. Annihilators involves a lot of explanation, a lot of new characters, a lot of things that, again, need normies to just jump on board with, and I don't think that's the direction Feige's going with. So there is a possibility, because Nova is canceled, that they'll do something like this. Will it be this? I don't think so, but it possibly could be. So 40% there. Next is Voltron, the Voltron movie that Henry Cavill is supposedly working on for Amazon and MGM, who Amazon bought. Instead of it getting a theatrical release, we now have rumors that it is getting a straight to streaming release. This honestly is so new. Originally I was filming this episode yesterday. I got interrupted, had a whole graduation thing for a friend becoming a doctor, and congratulations. But it cut our filming short, so this has been added since yesterday, so I haven't been able to vet this at all. So we're just gonna kind of cover our bases and go right down the middle, say 50% likely that Cavill's Voltron movie is going to a streaming only release. I think Henry Cavill has enough of a name that they could do a theatrical release and it could theoretically make money. But if they're feeling uncertain, which is possible because everyone's feeling uncertain right now because they're refusing to look at the evidence in front of their face, I think there's a fair possibility that it could go straight streaming. So there's enough on either side right now to say 50%. And then our final piece is Alien versus Predator. We now have official rumors, I guess you could call them, that AVP is going to be getting a cinematic universe, that they're going to actually be moving forward with this. I think there's a bunch of evidence that shows that this is the direction they kind of want to go. I also feel like in their heads, this isn't news because this has been established to a certain degree in almost every form of content that has been related to Aliens and Predator since I think it was a comic book that did it first, but since that comic book, it's just accepted that they're the same universe because you have a lot of Easter eggs in the Predator movies that you see alien skulls as trophies and stuff like that. So I don't think this is really news. I really don't think this is something they're going to have to officially announce. I think they're just going to show it. I think it's a cool Easter egg that really we should have saw coming all along. So I'm going to say about 90% likely that we will be seeing Alien versus Predator under Disney's management. So that's what we got for Rumor Mill. Nothing to speculate on necessarily this week that we haven't already kind of touched on a little bit. That is just where the rumor mill ends. And the housekeeping begins. So housekeeping this week, nerds, for the next few weeks, nothing out of the ordinary. Should be able to do regular episodes. This week got a little messed up and I didn't make the announcement on any of the socials because we've kind of been out of commission to a certain degree. So my apologies. I don't know that it really matters that much, but you got more news because of it. So there you go. Upcoming things. There's going to be events in June. There's going to be at least one concert in July, and then I'll be heading out to Salt Lake in October. So that's a long ways out. So yeah, nothing in the immediate future. We'll be keeping tabs on things, but thank you very much, nerds, for sticking around. We're doing the thing and having fun, and I appreciate all your faces. Is there something in the news that you think I missed or that you think I should cover? Definitely talk about that in the comments section. Let me know because I like to take your suggestions, and it's good for the community when the community is involved with these kinds of things. So by all means, please let me know. And also share the show with everyone you know, because that is the best way for podcasts to grow, is if everyone who watches it, this tells a friend or two or seven that this is the place to get the news. This is the entertaining bits of the things we care about, and so on and so forth. So yeah, share the show. Let everybody you know that I exist and that this is where to get it, and I appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, follow over on Rumble, up on the X, the Twix, whatever you're calling it these days. That is the most active of the social medias, though I am on basically everything. So thank you very much, nerds. We'll see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.